Tonight's game will be played with a heavy heart for many involved on the field. Also for my broadcast partner, Chris Kokell, who had the privilege of coaching Joe Grosso, who was one of the great players at Pope John Paul, played at Penn, was slated to be a walk-on at the University of Miami, and then tragically lost his life as a result of a diving accident last month. And earlier this week, Chris Kokell got a chance to sit down with Joe Grosso's brother, Nick, and talk about Joe's legacy. Here's that conversation.
Nick, thanks for coming in and joining us tonight.
Glad to be here. Thank you, man.
You know how close I was to Joe. You know, he's your little brother. So I was so proud of everything Joe accomplished on the field. What was like the one moment where you knew Joe stood out and was like, wow, my little brother's a stud athlete?
It was actually way back in the day when he played for the Pompano Eagles when he was just a little guy. And he would go out there and he would hit and he would hit. And, he was one of the only, white kids on the field, but they all loved him. He was like the spirit of the team. He was in there slapping the pads, hitting with the older kids. He was a little chubby boy when he was a little kid before he put on all that muscle.
I can't picture that at all.
So, yeah. He was a little chubster, little meatball, we called him. And so he had to play in a weight class above. So he was with a bunch of older kids, but he never complained. He always wanted to go, always went to practice, always fought hard, and they loved him. And I remember them saying, man, that white boy can hit. So, yeah. That's probably my favorite. I knew way back in the day.
Talk about Joey when he was that young now, at home playing sports. Was there a point where he ever overtook you? Did it happen young?
No.
No?
I'm 8 years older than him. So when he was really young, I was always able to beat him down. But he always used to say, I am where I am because my older brother never let me win, and I didn't let him win. We would wrestle. I would slam him. We'd play basketball. I'd block his shots up onto the roof of the house. Never let him win. But when he was his age versus when I was my age, when we played in Little League sports, it wasn't even close. He was 8 years old hitting the ball over the fence, like past the concession stands, in his little baseball leagues. And he was just an all-around amazing athlete ever since he was a little kid.
Yeah, that's what I left his senior year when he decided to go out for the basketball team on a whim and ended up starting the whole year. Because that's the competition I had with Joe. And you're 8 years older. I'm 11, 13 years older, and he beat me every time, and it got me very mad. And I would just make him run the next day at practice.
Yeah.
On the field in high school, was there any one point where you thought, okay, he can play at the next level? I know you said that when he was younger at Little League, that's when you knew he was going to be good. But what about in high school? What did you think the ceiling was for Joey?
Oh, I knew he can go D1 ever since the beginning. You were his coach. Played offense, he played defense. You schemed the whole defense around him. You just go to the game and you watch the players on the field, and the one guy that stands out was Joe. The announcer, every play, tackle Joe Grosso, tackle Joe Grosso. It's 3rd and 1, it's 4th and 1. Who do you give the ball to? Joe Grosso. You hand him the ball, he's up the middle dragging guys for 10, 15 yards. He just couldn't be stopped. We just knew. And he started getting letters, calls sophomore, junior year, and we just knew.
Yeah, I laughed because coaches that year used to be like, oh, how did you scheme up that play? And there were times where I would just wave my hand and be like, Joe, go play defense, and just tell the guys what to do. And he was out there basically running the show himself.
Yeah.
He was more than a captain on the field. He was a coach on the field. Joe was the only player I've ever had sit in the coach's office before the game watching film. And I think I told you the story where I was like, all right, Joe, you got to go. And he was like, nah, I'm good. And he gave me that smirk like, I'm belonging here and I'm going to stay in here. And
yeah,
I let him stay. Now, he chose Penn. He decided to go Ivy League over going to a D1 school. What was that process like? And, it's funny because he was the good-looking stud athlete, a little bit of a party guy, but yet he was able to do it in the classroom. What was your thought process when you were like, wow, Joey's going to the Ivy League?
That was one of the most amazing and difficult choices of his life. I went on some of the recruiting trips with him to some D1 schools. He had offers from Marshall. I went on the trip with him to Western Michigan as one of his official visits, and it was a blast. You go into the coach's office at the stadium. They show you the schedule where they're going to be playing on ESPN against Michigan, against Notre Dame. We go to these parties with some of the other players. There's girls everywhere. Oh, my God, Joey, you got to come here. They're looking at me. Oh, my God, are you his twin brother? Are you playing too? I'm like, no. Look, talk to him. But it was amazing. And I thought he was going to go there because it's the big time. It's a D1 football school. They have NFL players that went there, Greg Jennings. So it was difficult. But he's like, at the end of the day, if I don't make it to the NFL, I'm just another graduate. However, if I go to Penn and I go to Ivy League, now I have a real valuable education that I can use for the rest of my life, and I'll also get to play and have fun at the same time. So he was able to really make that decision based on education and athletics.
Yeah, so basically you're saying he was a better athlete than me, smarter than me, and more mature, made a more mature decision than I would have.
And better looking than both of us.
Yeah, that's true. He was. He is. What about now, Joey recently, right before he passed away, made the Miami Hurricanes 105, and you're known around the station as Hurricane Nick. So I know how much that meant to Joey, but tell us a little bit about what that meant to you first, and then also what it meant to Joey.
It was probably the greatest feeling, most proud I've ever been of him, because that was his dream come true. Obviously in high school, you guys have that picture together after his last game, throwing up the U. And, we've been Canes fans our whole lives, going to games, watching the team, watching every game every Saturday, going to games together with my whole family. It was amazing. And the day before everything happened, he got the call from the coach. They went down to the school. They signed his letter of compliance to play. He was on the roster. He made it, and it was one of the most amazing feelings, that I could have as a proud older brother. And he was, stoked beyond belief. He couldn't believe it was real. And we actually thought that he was going to be on the team much longer, before he was officially on there. But he was, talking to the coaches, making sure, because he didn't want to disappoint anybody. But when it came through and he was going to be on the team, he was all smiles, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he lived the dream, which we knew there's no stopping Joey Grosso.
Yeah.
Nick, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thank you, man. Glad to be here.
All right, the conversation with Chris Kokell and Nick Grosso, and next week, Pope John Paul, for its home opener against Calvary Christian, is going to be retiring Joey Grosso's number. So a heartfelt ceremony to be sure, and there'll be a lot of emotion on the field tonight here at St. Andrews High School.